Good evening. It's an honor to be here tonight to present my expertise on career and work meaningfulness to the Board of Trustees. My name is Teresa Cordador, and I'm a professor here in the School of Labor and Employment Relations on the Urbana campus. First, a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Fair Oaks, California, a suburb of Sacramento. I studied at a local community college before earning my bachelor's degree in psychology and my master's in public health policy, both from the University of California at Berkeley. In 2009, I earned my doctorate in organizational behavior from the U of I and was hired on the tenure track in the School of Labor and Employment Relations immediately afterward. Because I study careers and meaning, I often get asked by people, how do I find meaningful work? In particular, I hear this a lot from students. It's an issue that affects higher education because students often want college to put them on the path to meaningful careers. However, faculty and staff are often looking for answers to the same question. Students and employees are told, find something you're passionate about. Find something you enjoy. Find something that makes a difference. In other words, find meaningful work by finding meaningful work. The real question is, how do you get there? What my research shows, and what I've learned through my own career, is that meaningful work is not simply something you go out and find, like an egg on an Easter egg hunt. It's something co-created over time by individuals and the organizations they work in. The truth is, though, I can relate to my students who ask me how to find meaningful work. Before pursuing my PhD and taking my position at Illinois, I spent 10 years working outside of academia and spent a lot of that time searching for my own work meaningfulness. When I graduated from Berkeley with my master's in public health, I chose a career in the service sector with the primary goal of having a positive impact. Like students today, I wanted my work to be meaningful, and sometimes it was. I led initiatives and organizations that helped improve access to healthcare for women and children. I helped people in remote areas gain better access to medical providers. The work was challenging, interesting, and a significant part of my identity. I was developing expertise, but because I mostly worked with medical doctors, I sometimes felt that my expertise was less valued or less recognized. Also, I worked in organizations whose missions seemed more about making money than improving lives. So even though I found work that I was passionate about, work that seemed to satisfy the very definition of meaningful work, my job often didn't feel meaningful, and this seemed less about the work itself and more about the organizations and contexts that I found myself in. So when I decided to go back to school for my doctorate, I wanted to pursue questions informed by my work experiences. What contributes to work meaningfulness? What gets in the way? How do people navigate their careers to create meaning in their professional lives? Given these interests and the fact that my husband was already here on the faculty, I chose to go back to school for my doctorate and study organizational behavior in the College of Business. Throughout my academic career, my research has sought to answer a number of questions about meaningful work and careers. My research shows what my younger self experienced but did not yet understand. In particular, much of my work points to an important role for organizations, both in fostering and undermining meaningful work. In one study, my colleagues and I showed that employees seeking meaningfulness want to commit themselves not just to work, but also to their organizations. But committing to one's organization is predicated on employees being able to see the organization's practices and mission as a fit with their goals and values. In other words, employees become more committed when they see their workplaces as enabling them to fulfill personally meaningful aims. In other studies of organizations and unions, my research shows that organizations with supportive cultures, like those that foster things like belongingness, connection, teamwork, and trust, foster a greater sense of meaningfulness and organizational attachment. My work also shows how organizational contexts may undermine a sense of meaningfulness by devaluing certain forms of work. We've found that women in engineering often enter the field because of their technical interests and then get fast-tracked into management, sometimes because these roles are perceived to fit with their people skills. However, our results across multiple studies show that women in these roles experience lower levels of identification with their colleagues, lower work meaningfulness, and greater risk of turnover. This is because managerial roles are devalued in engineering and because women in these roles weaken their connection to the technical skills that are an important part of the identity of the profession. Conclusions from my research say that meaningfulness can be fostered by organizations who empower employees to excel in their work, who provide enabling and supportive environments for them to do so, and who value the unique role performed by all employees. You might ask me now whether I've found meaningful work here at the U of I, and I'm happy to report that the answer is yes. But let me tell you why that is based on my research. At LER, I get to do impactful interdisciplinary studies with colleagues who are doing research helping to make work and organizations better for employees. The faculty and leadership at LER also cultivate a strong sense of community. In fact, we often refer to ourselves as the LER family. LER has allowed me to do actionable research in a context with colleagues who support and genuinely enjoy one another. Illinois has also fostered my sense of meaning by having policies that show that they value my family and me. Some pictures of my kids. Illinois, when I graduated with my PhD in 2009, my kids were in and nearing middle school, and my husband was already a full professor in the psychology department. We didn't want to leave Illinois and our connections here, and when I was hired into the dual career couples program on the tenure track, it made our decision to stay easy. Illinois has afforded my husband and me the chance to do challenging, impactful work while raising two beautiful children who now have meaningful connections to Illinois of their own. My oldest daughter, a senior at American University, graduated from University Laboratory High here on campus. And my youngest daughter, who's here with me tonight, is now a freshman at U of I majoring in architecture. Illinois invested in us, and we have invested in Illinois. In many ways, my journey to Illinois was about my own search for meaningful work. Thanks to U of I and my colleagues in LER, I not only study meaningful work, I'm also a beneficiary of it. So how do I answer that question from my students? I say, you don't simply find meaningful work, you create it over time by building the expertise that allows you to have a personal impact, by finding organizations with people you can connect with and invest in and who are willing to do the same for you. So that you can align your skills and the advancement of topics and communities that matter to you. Thank you.